I want to just put it on your radar that they're telegraphing like nobody's business that on June 14th, in just 4 days, they are going to set this place up on fire again. Grand Rising, girls. Hello. Hello. You see what I'm dealing with? This is one of the reasons why Stacy and I left the city 17 years ago, right? To live off-grid. We live just like the Amish, grow our own food, reclaim our sovereignty, right? That we are responsible for ourselves and there's no one above us except the Most High, okay? And for 17 years, it's really worked out well for us, our health, our mindset, and everything else, right? So I want you guys to be aware of what's going on if you live in a populated area, because on June 14th, this thing's going to pop off. That's in 4 days, okay? And they're already setting the groundwork. They're checking out reactions, and they're setting their bricks in place. There's pictures on the internet right now of cinder blocks and bricks being dropped off, just like during the BLM riots back in the day. The summer of love, they're going to be calling this. The color of war, all this kind of stuff. They're telegraphing it left and right, okay? Now what I'm about to show you guys is a ad that was put out in, I believe, March, okay? So they've been letting you know this is coming. They always have to tell you what's coming. In March, by Christy Walton. Walton, does that name sound familiar? Walmart, Walton, right? Now, she has her right to her own political ideas or stances, but you have to see all of the connections. Walmart came on the scene and put mom and pop businesses out all over the country. They got big tax and breaks from their cities, big money saved because they were bringing jobs to the area. And then they started off with 15 lanes with cashiers everywhere, and now you see like 2 lanes with cashiers and the rest is automated, okay? So all these big corporations are all in on it. The whole thing is a great big setup, and they're taking us, again, they're taking us to where they want us to go, which is a digital life, totally surveilled, you know, monitored, facial recognition. Have you been on a plane lately? This stuff is coming, but they're telegraphing that on June 14th, it's going to pop off across the country. That ad was from March. Now I'm going to show you one from June. They spiced it up a little bit. Again, it's the same person, the Walton, and they're putting this out in the paper, you know, for everyone to see. This is called organized chaos, right? So they're going to send in all the agitators that are going to disrupt your life. I don't know if you're following what's going on in LA, but last night they looted Apple stores. You know, they're looting all the stores. And one thing I'll try to explain to you guys just real quick is that the police were formed way back in the day to stop looters and stealers from stealing things from the rich people, okay? If you go look up the history of that, that's how it all started. So for them to just be, you know, let these looters and stuff go in and take all this stuff, the consumer mentality that they had you under, like they wanted you to just to grow up and be a consumer from the cradle to the grave, you know what I mean? Buy, have no sovereignty, do what they say. that system is falling apart. Like, they don't want it anymore. They're bored with it. So they're moving on to transhumanism and all this. Oh man, this is crazy. It's a very peaceful start of the day here on the homestead. This is why we left the city 17 years ago, so we could reclaim our lives, right? I don't know if you can get what I'm saying, but you know, we were 100% reliable on everything from the system. The water, the food, the housing, everything we had, we were totally reliant on the city or the state, you know, basically providing it. Even though we were paying for it, they would provide it 100%. So if they wanted to cut you off from said system, they could do that just like that. And you guys have probably witnessed some of that stuff in maybe the riots or anything like that, where your life became uncomfortable. Remember, during COVID, we had the supply chain issues. Okay, so that should have been a huge eye-opener for you, and we're hoping that you don't become complacent again and you'll fall back into these traps where they control every aspect of your life. So I want to just put it on your radar that they're telegraphing like nobody's business that on June 14th, in just 4 days, they are going to set this place up on fire again, all across the whole country. All the deep state, whatever you want to call them, because it's two wings on the same bird, to be honest with you guys. They're going to unleash this stuff on us like nobody's business. And I want you guys to be prepared. If you live in a congested city area, you have 4 days to kind of batten down your hatches so you can ride the storm a little bit. All right? I don't know how this is going to look, but here's a map right here where they're saying they're going to start popping off all these little protests. After that, who knows what's going to happen, right? We're seeing the National Guard being deployed in Los Angeles. Now we have Marines on the way. They're trying to shut down all this anarchy is basically what it is, right? And I want you guys to be so, you know, and please be very mindful that for the last 4 years, 5 years, they have let folks flood over our borders unvetted, all right? So we have a lot of people here. There's been a lot of reports on it. I'm not going to just do a video about it or anything, but we have very, you know, not good people inside of our country right now that they're waiting for this. This is part of the plan, all right? Very simple. This is part of the plan. They're going to make your life very uncomfortable, and I don't want you guys to get caught flat-footed, okay? So please be mindful of June 14th. Pop these riots off all across the country, worse than you saw during the BLM riots back in the day. For sure, if you live in, like, you know, a major city or a very populated area, you are going to see some discomfort in your life on the 14th, okay? And I want to also add that there's also some rumblings of July 4th, you know, our Independence Day celebrations. I'm trying to, you know, run the homestead, grow my food, check out of this just a little bit, but I am kind of keeping my ear on the ground, just like the Indians used to do, you know, so I can know what's coming. So you can be prepared, not scared. So just consider this your warning that on this month, in 4 days, things in your area could become very, very spicy, all right? And I also want you to remember that for 4 or 5 years, even longer probably, you know, for sure, but they've been squeaking people over the border, military-aged men, okay? A lot of them from Mexico, right? And if you believe any of this stuff, if you actually believe that Trump is actually here to try to set this stuff right and to bring us back to our, you know, love America and all this kind of a stuff, if you actually believe that, then you have to also understand that the stuff that he's attacking, USAID, not really, they moved it over to the State Department under Rubio. But any of that stuff, any cutting off the funds or, you know, exposing them in the spotlight, all right, that is going to agitate them and make them flare up so they can get back to controlling the narrative and then making you feel like you're in the wrong. That's all this is all about. So if you actually believe that, you have to know that there is some discomfort coming in your life if he's actually going to be rooting out all the evil, right? Because when you get a snake cornered, it rises up against you a little bit. It ain't just going to go down, you know, without a fight, all right? Now, if you're hip to it's, you know, all orchestrated, it's all one big play, like if you're following that Trump dubs Palantir, which I'm going to do a video about a little more in depth for you guys, dubs Palantir to harvest all the American data, okay? And then all of a sudden him and Elon have a breakup, and then all of a sudden we have riots on the street to distract you from that information. If you can see the pattern here, because that is the pattern, then you should be extra being prepared, right? Extra being prepared. So this year is going to be kind of spicy, right? And I think it's only going to get worse as we roll into the next, you know, year. Okay, these next 8-9 months, things are moving really fast. I think America is under shock and awe right now. So they're throwing as much at us as possible, exposing all the stuff that we've been talking about, saying that it's true, and they've been saying, no, it's not true, but now they're saying that it is true, right? Like even Robert Kennedy Jr. talking about vaccines, and he's getting on the TV saying that they're stopping these vaccines for healthy children and pregnant women, healthy pregnant women. I mean, it's such a farce. All the other doctors that were talking about, you know, COVID and what a lie it was are coming out talking about him and his two-faced rhetoric, all right, and going after Fruit Loops. So you have 4 days to really batten down your hatches, okay? It might get a little spicy where you live, especially if you live like in Austin or Chicago or Massachusetts and Boston, you know, all these really strong liberal leftist strongholds, okay? And for sure in all the other cities as well. So just make sure, you know, you might not want to go out from the 14th for a couple days to see how all this breaks loose. So you're going to have your preps right there, so you don't have to go anywhere. So this is just your heads up warning, is that they're telegraphing, you know, this date of the 14th, which is in 4 days. And I just wanted you to be aware of that. In case you're not paying attention, a lot of people have tuned out. They're going back to their normal lives. And then you're going to get caught off guard. Dr. Leo's on his way up. I got a bee video coming out for you guys. We got more videos on deck, a little more health and nutrition stuff so you guys can break free from the big pharma lie. Man, what a ride it's been. These last several years of them exposing everything and telling you to your face all the stuff they've been doing for all these years. And then that causes a lot of people to actually dig into the information and see it for themselves. And like we said last night in the live show, if you want to know what happened to my eye and everything, you could go watch that show. But as we said last night in the live show, you know, the most capable hand is at the end of your wrist. This whole system has been set up from the day to create in you, without you even acknowledging it or understanding it, to create in you a certain mindset. And they're done playing that game, and they want to move on to the next game. Transhumanism, total mind control, body control, no sovereignty over the individual. The individual has no rights. You have to be part of the collective. And that's where they're moving with all this stuff. It's up to you now. It's up to you to make the decisions that if you're going to have some preps at your house to keep you off the streets for a little while, or if you're going to maybe look for some property and get out of these populated areas. Now's probably a good time too. They say the housing market's having some troubles. You might be able to pick up a deal somewhere. Okay, so this might be a good time to launch while everybody else is done having their mind on it, and while the prices are kind of going down, that you can get out there and maybe find a place like we did and start growing your own food and tuning out from all the noise. Maybe that's a good time. But at a minimum, if you can't do that, if you can't afford that because you've been jackholed into this situation where they didn't ever teach you about money, and now you're at the older part of your life and you're living on this budget, and maybe you have a government check coming in so you're beholden to that, maybe it's time that you just try to pick up a few more items at the store as you go in there and make sure that you're prepared the best you can be. All right? This is going to get very interesting, and I promise you it's going to get worse, way worse, before it gets better, okay? But you got to keep a positive attitude. You have to make sure you're spiritually fit with the Most High, okay? Because that brings you a lot of peace of mind. And then just, you know, keep your head on a swivel. Don't let people invade your private space. And, you know, just do the best you can, all right? We'll see you guys on the next video with Dr. Leo. This is why they try to outlaw living off-grid, homeschooling your kids, because that takes you out of the control situation. Just so you know.